Hey everyone, welcome to this analytical brief. Today, we are breaking down a massive, fundamental shift happening at Cannes Lions this year. We're looking closely at the African tech deal flow, and more specifically, how African founders are completely changing the game, moving from being mere observers to acting as high-level operators right there on the global stage. If you're tracking emerging market deal flow, this is an explainer you absolutely cannot afford to miss. Now, before we jump into the raw data, we need to set the baseline perspective. Listen to this. For 70 years, Cannes Lions has been the definitive gathering for global creative and media power. This year, a cohort of African tech founders is walking in with live revenue, real product, and a fundamentally different proposition. They aren't arriving as some sort of diversity case study. No way. They are arriving as heavyweight strategists. So here's how we're breaking this down today. First, we'll cover the paradigm shift. Second, we'll dive into the deal flow and founder profiles. Third, the structural mechanics making this happen, and finally, measuring success.
All right, part one, the Cannes paradigm shift.
To truly grasp the gravity of what is happening on the Croisette this year, we kind of have to look backward. There's this specific, famous photograph from Cannes Lions 2019 that still makes the rounds in African tech WhatsApp groups every single June. It shows the main stage, 12,000 seats, this massive LED wall, and a speaker lineup featuring 47 names. And in 2019, 0 were African, not a single one. Fast forward to 2026, and that image is basically a historical artifact. We are now seeing a record cohort of African operators arriving specifically to close serious enterprise deals. And this shift, it's entirely driven by the macro environment. African startups raised around $6.5 billion at the absolute peak in 2022. By 2025, that had stabilized down to $2.4 billion. So what does a drop like that actually mean? Well, it means the filter is way tighter now. The funding is heavily concentrated in highly resilient, revenue-generating companies. The founders making this really expensive trip to Cannes aren't there just testing out ideas. They have proven, rock-solid models and live revenue.
Okay, let's move right into section 2, deal flow and founder profiles.
So the crucial part here is examining the live deal sheet. We're looking at 3 incredible companies spanning totally distinct sectors. We've got a Lagos-based fintech doing $40 million a month in volume, aggressively hunting a distribution partnership. We have a Nairobi creator tool with 1.2 million users aiming for white label licensing. And we've got a Cape Town event tech platform executing a high-stakes live pilot activation. Let's break these down one by one because this is where it gets interesting. First up, our fintech operator out of Lagos. They process cross-border payments between African markets and European brands, and get this, they already count 3 Cannes Lions sponsors as clients. They are absolutely not looking for PR or press coverage here. They leveraged a Semaphore Foundation intro 3 months ago to set up a direct meeting with a European payment processor. If they close this distribution partnership at Cannes, it will literally triple their corridor capacity. A massive game changer. Next is our creator tool builder from Nairobi. Think of this as a design platform purpose-built from the ground up for mobile-first markets. It's fully optimized for low-bandwidth connections, it's offered in Swahili and Amharic, and it's aggressively priced. They are sitting down with 2 major agency holding companies for white-label licensing. If successful, this Nairobi-built platform is going to power campaigns for global brands at massive scale. Finally, the event tech innovator from Cape Town. They've built an amazing analytics platform for live events that tracks foot traffic, engagement, and even attendee sentiment in real time. For them, Cannes is the ultimate Tier 1 stress test. They actually have a pilot deployment at a sponsor activation right now. If their tech holds up under the sheer density and chaos of a global event like this, the founder has a letter of intent from a major events company just waiting to be signed.
Right, moving on to section 3, structural mechanics.
Now, we've seen the who and the what, but we've really got to address the underlying structural friction points here. This is the big question every skeptic asks. Why fly all the way to France when your primary market is in Africa? It's a fair question, for sure, but it completely ignores the persistent, everyday friction of cross-border business. Visa asymmetry, huge travel costs, and network density gaps naturally disadvantage founders operating outside the US and European corridors. Historically, just getting face time with the right capital and partners requires massive logistical hurdles. So think about it. What is the actual ROI of this trip? It boils down to 3 strategic imperatives. First, access to capital corridors. A VC who won't fly down to Lagos will happily take a 20-minute coffee at the Carlton Hotel in Cannes. This dramatically lowers the cost per introduction. Second, partnership density. You can literally compress a grueling 6-month email outreach cycle into 5 days of face-to-face meetings. And third, credibility transfer. Simply the act of being at Cannes signals a level of readiness and global ambition that heavily influences subsequent fundraising. And to ensure this whole endeavor doesn't just devolve into, really expensive tourism, we have to look at the structural support. Specifically, the Upside Journal's pitch journey model. This program provides 3 critical layers of infrastructure. Curated introductions mapped to exact deal objectives, content amplification through targeted editorial presence, and deep relationship intelligence. Let's drill down into that relationship intelligence for a second, because the specific tools making this viable are fascinating. Look, the warm intro economy is very real, and it's a huge barrier. But tools like Concorda app actively map the founder's target network, leveraging that Lagos to London or Nairobi to New York diaspora bridge to identify exactly where those warm introduction paths lie. It takes a massive, chaotic festival and turns it into a surgically precise, economically viable execution plan. Okay, final section, part 4, measuring post-Cannes success. Strategy and introductions are great, obviously, but what does success actually look like when the dust settles? Let me be clear. The goal here is explicitly not to showcase African tech as some feel-good diversity narrative. The goal is hard-nosed metrics, period. Measurable outcomes mean meetings booked, MOUs signed, real pilot partnerships initiated, and term sheets advanced. For founders who execute this effectively, their 6-month pipeline trajectory completely transforms just because of the deals locked in during these 5 days. And honestly, the venue for securing these metrics makes total sense. The absolute fastest growing share of African tech right now is the creative economy. We're talking ad tech, content platforms, creator tools, and event tech. Cannes Lions sits at the exact intersection of creative services and technology. These founders aren't making symbolic gestures, they are ruthlessly capitalizing on the industries where Africa has the absolute most to offer and the most to gain. The question is no longer if African tech belongs on the global stage, but which investors will be fast enough to partner with them when they arrive. If you are navigating the intersection of technology, capital, and global business, make sure to follow and subscribe to the Upside Journal podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your audio. Head over to theupsidejournal.com to read the full analytical brief, review the data models, and join our executive network. See you in the next episode.